Can you do it? Yeah! Yes! He did it! Nice job. So I realize it's been a while since I gave you an update on my GMC, and there's been a few changes since I saw you last. Number one is I put my Michelins back on, my 285 75/16s, and I had those 315 75/16s, but unfortunately they were rubbing just a little bit right here and right here, and I cut it off a little bit. So I kind of remedied that, but the main thing was when I was towing the camper, it just affected the gear ratio a little too much for me, and I wasn't real comfortable because starting out it was either first gear, which is really slow, or second gear, which I'd have to give it some fuel to do it. So I opted to put these tires back on, and then I just start out in second gear at an idle if I want to. But the biggest change I've made is under the hood. So let me open the hood. Hey, Mr. Helper. You know how to open the hood? So here's my biggest change. Right there. As you know from my former videos, I've had a couple other turbos on here. I started out with an HX35, but it was leaking oil. I knew I was leaking oil because it ended up low on oil, and it wasn't burning oil. And I looked inside the intercooler, and the oil was ending up in the intercooler lines and the intercooler. So I knew I had a leak on my bearings on the HX35. So I bought a Borg Warner S300, and it was just a little too big for my truck, and it always smoked. I've been watching Power Driven Diesel, and they've been suggesting the K27. So I invested in the K27. It wasn't cheap. It's about $900 and some change, but it was a pretty darn good update. It does everything that they said it would do. It spools up quick. It probably increased my power by a considerable amount. My butt dyno tells me maybe 15%. I mean, it's pretty considerable. It just jumps when not necessarily from the start, but it jumps when I'm going 30 miles an hour and I give it the fuel, and it just takes off. Now, one of the things that Power Driven Diesel advertised was that it's a direct replacement for an HX35. Now, probably in a regular Cummins Dodge truck, they're probably correct, but since my tolerances are a little different on this swap, it wasn't exactly a direct fit, although I will say it was a pretty easy fit. So let me show you where I had to modify things a little bit. As you can see, my downpipe right here is really close to my air box. And I had done this already. I had taken some wrap for your exhaust, and I had put some JB Weld paste that I made up, and I just pasted these on there, and that's done really well. As you can see right there, I had to mash in my downpipe a little bit to get it to fit, which wasn't all bad, but it does fit. It's just pretty tight. Everything up here on the intake is the same. It looks all good. I didn't have any problems with the fit anywhere else except for my downpipe. And probably if it was a 3-inch downpipe, it probably wouldn't have been an issue, but since I have a 4-inch downpipe, it was an issue. I realized that one thing I hadn't reviewed in my former videos was my exhaust. From Diamond Eye, I bought a 4-inch kit for a first-gen Cummins. It had the first-gen downpipe, and it had a whole bunch of pieces with it, and I had to cut and modify. But the best part about it was the downpipe from that kit went straight down, as you can see, pretty much a 90-degree angle, and was able to make all my clearances. If I get under here, oof, I get under here and show you right there, See the downpipe? And then I put a V-clamp right here. And then if I follow it on down, I've got another V-clamp right there. My first muffler, a V-clamp on the back of it, and then my second muffler back there. And then I custom made it to go over the axle in the back. As you can see right here on the transfer case, it's a super tight fit. So I had to do the same thing that I did up above, as I had to mash in the side of it so that it would slide past the transfer case. So it does fit, it's just really tight. You can see what's all over my oil pan, a bunch of sticky. I tried to quiet this thing down, and I put a bunch of Flex Seal tape all around this to see if I couldn't quiet it down. Now all I have is a bunch of sticky goo left over. I'm still playing with it, trying to quiet it down. Should we go for a drive?
Sure.
All right, put your seatbelt on. All right.
Yeah,
let's go for a drive.
I should put it on my head.
All right, so as I was saying, I pretty much always start out in second gear, and it'll just idle. Like I'm off the accelerator right now, and it just like crawls out of here. All right, here, you want to hold it for me? All right, point it right at me. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so we're gonna take off up the driveway here. You ready? Here we go. Woohoo! That turbo's got a little bit of a whine to it, which is all right with me. I can't hear it anyway. You ready?
Yep.
All right, point it right at.
Woohoo!
That's about as fast as I want to go on this dirt road.
We didn't miss a direct. Somehow the dark out. Wow, no, the bitty. Go to midtown. Yippee-ki-yay!
Yippee-ki-yay! I'm gonna open the hood. Shut it off. Just turn the key off. Now, if you noticed when I was driving, it looked like my tachometer that's tacked on there went all the way up to 4,000 RPMs. It didn't. I have 3,000 RPM governor springs, and I had to add that tachometer by putting two magnets on the harmonic balancer, and then having a basically an appendage right up underneath the harmonic balancer that's testing the rotations to go send a signal to the tachometer. And when it gets to about 2,000, it goes crazy. It goes whoop. So it's not really accurate, because I know I'm not going to 4,000 RPMs. On the harmonic balancer, wherever there's a gap right here, I've got a magnet epoxied in there. But then this little device right here, I don't know if it's too close to it or what, but it's supposed to detect when the magnets pass over it and it's not working very good, I guess. Yeah.
Put that on my head.
Okay. You want the camera on your head?
Yeah.
How about you just hold it there? Oh, by the way, everything that Power Driven Diesel has suggested so far has definitely been an asset to my truck. I really like that AFC Live, and now I like my K27. Took me maybe like 20 minutes to put the turbo on, and then took me another 10-15 minutes to bash the side of my downpipe in to get it to fit. But it was definitely worth the money. All the way from the throttle response to the high-end power and torque is just incredible. So I'm giving the K27 a thumbs up. So I put 32,000 miles on this Cummins swap. One issue I've had is my belt. It's missing one rib. And I think what's happened is my alternator is just not quite aligned. And so what's happened is it basically sheared off one rib of the belt, and it works fine. It used to squeal all the time because it wasn't aligned quite right. What it needs is a spacer right here. I think maybe to push it back over this way actually. But in the meantime, it's running on what, 6 ribs instead of 7? But it does pretty good. But I haven't done anything to this. Oh, I take that back. I did replace the clutch on the fan because I had the original Dodge clutch off that old truck that I had that had 300,000 miles on it. My South Bend clutch works great, holds the power. I towed the trailer thousands of miles, pulling 8,000 pounds without ever a hiccup. I mean, it goes, you get out on the interstate, it goes up the hills and down the hills all in 5th gear. It doesn't care. It just stays right at the same RPM and just flies up the hill, pulling the camper. It's quite fun to drive, I must say. Other than the fact that it's a little bit loud and Julie doesn't really care for that, I mean, it is a lot of fun to drive. And as you can see, I daily drive it. Of course, I got my tools in the back. But when I first swapped it out, this seat cover was brand new. I just bought me another one. I have completely tore up this seat cover. I'm gonna have to get a new seat.
You did, Papa.
Oh, and your seat's kind of coming apart over there too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do daily drive it, and I guess that's to be expected. One issue that's kind of a big deal, and it has to do with my fuel system. Now, as you guys know, I put a fast fuel on here. I'll get under here and show it to you. It's right here between the rails, and I mean, it does pretty good. It makes a lot of noise, but when it's cold outside and I forget to put any kind of additive into my fuel, this filter right here just freezes up solid and puts paraffin in it, and then she quits. So I have to be really careful about when I drive in the cold weather that I make sure I put an additive in there so that I don't freeze up, because nothing more aggravating than you start it up and you get about 10 miles from home and she quits. Then what do? Walk home?
No.
Have you ever walked 10 miles? No? Well, I did once. So if you guys have any questions about my Cummins, I'm happy to answer them. Just throw them out there and maybe I'll make a video of it. And I might even answer it on my comment section. Thanks for watching, and I appreciate your subscriptions.
And